Good afternoon, everybody, or good morning, good evening. Not sure where you're joining from. Predominantly, most people I'm sure are joining from Australia, New Zealand. So, welcome to this session with Michelle and I. We're looking forward to taking you through this, I think, an exciting space of skills-based organisation. So, I'll first start by introducing my colleague Michelle. So, Michelle and I have been working closely together for over a year now, and it's been a great pleasure for me to work with Michelle and I guess taking some of the ideas that we've both shared independently around this concept of skills-based and skills organizations, and working, bring some of that to life within our own organization and also what we're bringing to our customers as well. But Michelle brings with her a lot of expertise covering many different areas, has a strong background in leadership and management, and has worked in a range of different industries, all with an educational lens and focus. So skills and skill development is close to her and close to me. So I'm been delighted to work with Michelle on this webinar and working with her at Skills. So I'll pass over to Michelle.
Thank you, Andy. It's very kind, and equally delighted to be working with Andy. So, Andy's an accomplished business leader and agility practitioner, over 20 years experience driving strategic transformation and growth. We're also really lucky at Skills that Andy's spearheading our AI strategy. So, and that's right down into getting hands dirty, developing courses and content that promote responsible AI leadership. So, his expertise is helping us navigate the implications of these emerging technologies, and also helping us prepare that the future of AI in our organisation is ethical as well. So working in that policy space too. Andy's also the chair of New Zealand Business Agility Meetup, so he really utilises his in-depth experience there to essentially influence organisational leaders, and also brings in some really key specialised coaches. So that's another way that you might like to connect with Andy, is to jump onto that meetup and connect with him there. But super delighted and happy to be presenting with Andy today.
Great. So some of you might be wondering who that person with that funny hat is. So not surprisingly, with my AI background and somewhat in skills. So wearing the pirate hat. So why a pirate hat? Well, we were when we were thinking of doing some internal training, the name AI Andy came around, and one of our leaders said AI Andy sounded like a pirate name or a pirate term. So since then, that sort of stuck. So we've used that as a bit of fun within Skills to sort of start learning pirate talk. And what was highly amusing is that in talking to Michelle about this earlier, she mentioned to me that that her name actually has a pirate background as well, and that it actually meant robber baron. So at the end, we'll bring that all together. So we've got two pirates leading you through. So I'm not sure if that's a good thing or bad thing, but I'm sure it'll hopefully bring some mirth at the end. So let's run through the agenda. Apart from pirate talk, what are we actually going to cover? We're covering the focus on the rise of skills-based organizations. When I say rise, I think it's been talked about for a long time, including in our name, Skills. You know, we've been talking about it, and we have been living it for over 30 years. So what makes that different? So we're going to talk about some of the, I think, things that are going to accelerate the adoption of a skills-based focus within an organization. Michelle's going to cover benefits. So obviously, this is a different way of doing it. So there must be some benefits in moving to that. We're going to look at what are the skills. So what are the future skills that will become important or are important? That and then you know, as part of that as well, sort of look in terms, give you an idea of a roadmap. So what does that look like for business? We'll give some examples, and we'll briefly talk about skills, what we're doing here, and also some steps to help move forward as well. So now we're just going to briefly cover the rise of skills-based organizations.
So, I mean, skills-based organisations have been around for a few years now, but they're certainly seeing an increase in uptick and people moving towards those. And really, it's just a form of operating model, which is defining work and structuring the workplace around specific skills rather than the traditional job functions. And this approach is intended to emphasise the importance of adaptability, continuous learning, and really recognition of employees' unique skill sets. I like this diagram because it's a nice graphic organizer, and really how the work is organized, which is really around a portfolio of fluid structures, meaning that the skills flow to the work, not the other way around. And traditional jobs with set descriptions are replaced by a focus on task, projects, and outcomes. And that's sort of really also leaning into solving problems with temporary teams with the right mix of skills to address them rather than necessarily relying on permanent functional departments. So really it's moving towards a workforce of one, so individuals with unique portfolios of skills and capabilities contribute to the organisation, and that emphasis on matching individual skills to the work. Traditionally, I guess those decisions around work were made on jobs. In a skills-based organisation, this is actually the decisions are made around skills and including everything from who gets hired to performance management to rewards. So the skills hub in the centre here is sort of the foundation for the entire system. This is done differently in different organisations, but really this is the organisation's overall approach to developing and using that talent from that skills hub, how the organisation establishes policies and standards for skill development and deployment, and really the systems and information needed to track and manage the skills. So certainly there's lots of ways that organisations are doing this differently. Some using quite sophisticated HR tech to do it, some not. But really it's about a framework for identifying and organising the skills needed by the organisation, and having that skills framework allows that common language and a standardised way of describing and measuring those skills across the organisation. Helps with workforce planning, so strategies to really ensure that you've got the right skills for the future, which of course with all the content at the moment about future of work, which is feeling like future is right now, of what's needed and what's not, and really learning and development, providing opportunities for employees to acquire new skills. And when you're thinking about leadership, talent pipelines and succession planning, obviously this is all part of this whole holistic picture here.
So this is sort of an example just to walk through what does that actually look like. So this is a fictitious organization. We're just sort of going to run through what would that look like in this organization. So first thing, as Michelle mentioned, that there is this concept of decoupling of work from job descriptions. So in this case, we talk about Sarah, graphic designer, contributing her skills across multiple projects and teams. And so again, this is probably what happens in a lot of organizations now. It's not like that you're not doing some of these things. It's just, I guess, the holistic nature of it that differentiates skills-based organizations from what probably a lot of organizations are already doing. So then in this case, again, we actually not only have Sarah who's available to contribute her skills, but then we have a pool of work available that people can choose and work on. And enabling that is a centralized skills hub. So for us to know what we need and for us to know what we have, we need to have a place that basically manages that. So that's often a missing thing within an organization because it's a big job. It's actually a lot of work to figure out what skills we need and what skills we have. And so that's where a lot of organizations start this sort of thing and then struggle because they have to go and go through quite a lot of work to actually do that. So this is one of the key enablers is this building a centralized skills hub. And that will often start with, what is your strategic intent and your goals, and then rolling that down into different areas of the organization, figuring out what are the skills needed in the organization and in the various parts of the organization and down to, individuals as well. So that's where the concept of, as we're going to talk about later with the skills DX, the diagnostics often comes in to actually help have a objective way of working out what skills you have and then matching that against what skills you need. And so then moving around this, we then move away from this concept of rigid job structures, people working in, I guess, more traditional siloed, into more cross-functional sort of work, where people are working across, or maybe in a project or program, but also they may be working across a range of projects or programs with their specialist skills, providing that to that project or program. And then the enabler of that is that we have an emphasis in the organization on development. So people are then with a clear knowledge of what skills we need and what skills we have. It makes it a lot easier for us to figure out what skills to develop. You save a lot of money when you've got that clarity. So that's again why this hard part of building the centralized skills hub actually is a massive enabler of this, because it provides that real clarity around what do you need going forward. So that upfront work actually pays off when you actually then have a very clear idea of what training and development people and the organization needs.
And certainly in terms of benefits, this slide's certainly highlighting some impressive statistics and in a skills-based approach, really leading to a potentially more agile, efficient and potentially innovative approach. So when work is organised around a portfolio of fluid structures, so that's those skills flowing to work rather than the other way around, that allows that dynamic allocation of resources, which of course can lead to increased efficiency and effectiveness. When we're looking at talent management, this can actually also be improved as well too, when we're matching individual skills to the work that needs to be done. And improved talent management is just a natural leader to improved employee satisfaction and motivation, engagement, and of course retention. When we're taking this particular approach, this is also where we can see greater adaptability. So you're able to respond far more quickly to changes in business environments. And again, that's those mobilizing those teams to form and disband quite quickly when you understand the actual skills that you've got and applying those to projects for new challenges. Innovation, and this is a nice piece around this, is when you're actually understanding diversity and bringing that together in the skills-based approach. So again, recognising those skills that you have, bringing them together, and that can foster that greater innovation. So employee engagement we've discussed, but when you look at some of these statistics here, 107% more likely to place talent effectively, 98% more likely to have a reputation as a great place to grow and develop, and 98% more likely to retain high performers. And of course, the retention of those high performers, the ease of that talent mobility can result in that far stronger learning culture, which of course also supports that succession planning.
So now we're going to have a discussion around what are the future fit skills. So I think the first point to make is that pretty well everyone and anyone that's been listening to anything will have heard of AI. It's AI, and that's why AI, Andy, and all these sort of things come around. So Josh Bersin, many of you may have heard of, follow, possibly even subscribe to, is quite a thought leader in the HR and I guess talent space. And I don't think it was any great surprise when he published his HR predictions for this year that AI had a prominent place, including, I think, here the first point that is, I think, reasonably profound, and that AI will massively impact HR, transforming job descriptions, talent intelligence systems, performance management, and employee experience in companies. And it would change every part of HR and every role. So how more profound can you get than that? So I guess the question we all have is when. I don't think it's if, it's when. And no, we can't really tell that, because that will be very individual in different organizations depending on where you are and the need. But I guess what we're going to see is an acceleration and change. That's unprecedented, I think, in history. So that's where I think, on one hand, it's exciting. On the other hand, it's somewhat scary or thought provoking. And obviously, it's going to change technology in a lot of things as well. So, in terms of how does it, what would that look like? So, this is just an example of how AI it could be, can be, and is being used across the talent space. So, again, plenty of use cases, examples where it's actually being used now or potentially being used. So this will give you a glimpse, and across the whole space of talent, there's you can see it covers in just that wide in one area alone a lot of different areas that AI will be or can be or could be used. And I think the point that is really important for people to understand with AI is that it's a very different momentum than what we've seen with just about anything else. So if you look at the chart on the left, we see one, I guess, development or in technology, or however you want to call it, internet development, and that's followed pretty well a linear sort of path. So over our lifetime, since the early 90s through to now, we've all seen how the internet has developed, and it's gone from something that was a academic I guess novelty to a bit something that we couldn't really do without now. But we've had 25 years to get used to it, so it's been progressively impacting us, and mainly beneficially. But if we think about AI, so AI has been around for as long. In fact, I've been working in the AI space for like the same sort of time. But back in those days, it was very much back end, analytical, difficult, and very limited in what it could do. And then if we go along on the other curve, we see a few things. Some of you may have heard of AlphaGo. So that was when the deep mind and the computers were able to beat the world chess champions, and and we started seeing Go, which is one of the Chinese sort of traditional game, which was seen as being impossible. That was when the AI was able to defeat that. And so we've had a few aha moments along the way, but it's been following an exponential curve. So quite a slow progression. Then we reach November 2023, and ChatGPT came out, and that was what I think in the slow part of this exponential curve. But in the last year, since ChatGPT came around, the advancement in AI has accelerated at an exponential rate. So it's not accelerating at the linear rate that we saw with the internet. It's at an exponential rate, to the point where these predictions vary wildly. But this concept of AGI, or artificial general intelligence, and the concept of that, again, it's not even agreed on what that means, but I guess conceptually what it means is where AI is able to operate at human intelligence level across pretty well everything. And so while there will be people that will be better than AI in some areas, and that will last for a long time, in my view, that's when we get to the artificial super intelligence. That's when AI is better than us at everything. So who knows when that will be. But some people say that general intelligence, when it's as good as us, could be this year, or it could be 5 years. We don't really know. But all I'm saying is, because it's on this exponential curve, it's going to come a lot faster than people think, and a lot faster than probably we're prepared for, frankly, as well. So this is why this whole concept of skills-based organization is so important, because we need to prepare ourselves and our people for a rapidly changing world. And so I think the only way we're going to is to start operating in this skills-based approach, because AI will make a lot of things obsolete quite quickly. So the other thing that's happening as well is that, as well as AI, we're also starting to get the same sort of acceleration in the robotics and in the concept of agents. So I'm just going to quickly play this clip. So this is it was 2022, and this is a Tesla who most of you have heard of in the car. They're actually also heavily into robotics as well, and so the Optimus is their robotics, and they see this as being bigger than their car business in time. So that just gives you an idea how potentially this could grow. So the Optimus robot, as you can see, I'm just going to skim along. It can walk. It can flexibly move. It's got hands that are quite dexterous, so it actually can pick up an egg and do human-like movement in that sense. The walking is creepy, I must admit, and it can also dance as well. Now, that's very Elon Musk-like. It has to do something funky like that. But the point is that these robots are now able to be trained to do pretty well anything quickly. So in the old days, the thing that held back robotics was that it used to take a long time to train a robot to do anything. Now that they're trained in a virtual world, so they learn to do things in a virtual 3D world, all the programming is done there, and then they just literally apply that to the robot, and the robot can then do that first time without any because it's already done it lots of times in a simulated world. And that's what's accelerating the progress. So AI is being used to train these robots and in this 3D virtual world. So it means that they can be trained to do tasks well, quickly. And so this sort of robot can learn lots of things and can become generally useful in lots of areas. So that's why we're going to see a massive movement in robots and robotics in the next 5 years as well, because the technology is coming together to enable that in the same way that it has for AI as well. So what's going to come even closer, and this will happen later this year, is this concept of AI agents. So OpenAI, who's the company that's behind ChatGPT, the next big thing they're working on. So people have heard of GPT-5, that's their next big release. But one of the features that comes within that is this concept of autonomous AI agents. And so these are actually will probably almost be the first step towards this AGI or general intelligence, because what you can do with them an autonomous agent is have it trained to perform a set of tasks independently. And this can be pretty well as anything you can imagine. That so an example, there's one now that's sort of being played around with. It's called Devon. It's got a name, and it's a coder. It's the first AI coding assistant. But it's more than just a coding assistant like we've got with other tools like that you have. It's actually an autonomous one. So you can type in a set of instructions and it'll go off and do a whole range of things. Some interesting things, like it's actually tried to book to solicit work on some platforms and so on, using its name, like saying, hi, I'm Devon, I'm available for work. So some quirky things happening, but it gives you the idea that these agents are coming quite quickly, who will be able to work on a set of tasks autonomously or with human interaction. So it could, as an example, an autonomous agent could manage a whole interaction could be from a website, from taking an inquiry through to processing it completely autonomously. That's a simple thing, or a web campaign for marketing. It could basically go from an idea to actual delivery, automate the whole thing. Generally, what we would expect to happen is there'll be humans checking stuff. So the agent will do a piece of the work, wait for some instructions. You'll type in changes you want. It'll go and do the next piece. But you can imagine how that frees you up potentially as well. So it's doing the work. You're just coming in and checking what it's doing. So anyway, that's good. But what I'm just saying is that's a big change in work, because generally these are things that would have been done by people, that AI will be able to be doing in the next year. So we need to prepare ourselves for this world. So let's just move on. So obviously to enable us to work in this new world, there's going to be a whole set of technical and specifically AI skills that will be needed. Not for everybody for it all the time, but I guess across the organization we're going to see more need for these skills, and to a greater or lesser degree. So cloud computing, or as I say, that to me is just computing now. That's pretty well how everything is done, but it brings with it its own set of challenges, including the next one, cybersecurity. We're going to see an explosion in problems with that AI is going to generate. Unfortunately, AI is great at when it's the ability for it to be creative means that it's creatively good for bad things as well. So things like deep fakes, mimicking videos that look like people, sound like people, that's going to cause problems for organizations from a security point of view. People are going to use AI for thinking about how to trick people, and they'll be very persuasive. So, with all these good things, there's always going to be downsides to that as well. And so we've got to be clear and realistic about that. So cybersecurity the need for that is going to continue to grow, and the knowledge around cybersecurity as well. Big data and analytics. So we talked about that for a long time. I mean, I've come from a data background and I've been talking about that for 25 years again. But this is another example where AI and the tools that come with it will enable non-data analysts to do analytical work. So with ChatGPT now, it has a data analysis component, and it allows you to interact with data without knowledge of a lot of the analytical algorithms that sit behind that. And that's really empowering, because previously you would have had to have had a data analyst to work with some complex statistical modeling tools to come back with anything. Now you can basically, with a few queries on ChatGPT, you can ask and get back some pretty powerful analytic information. So again, AI is enabling big analytics, and big data is an enabler of AI. So obviously AI thrives on data, and a lot of it. And so with that, obviously, there's the need for big data and all of the management and everything around that within an organizational context. Blockchain is an area that I think will gain prominence. So blockchain predominantly is based around trust in a business context. And I think with AI helping to break trust, I think blockchain will start to become useful and used more. And then we get into the AI skills. So all of you will be knowledgeable, or at least have probably played around and know that prompting is actually important. So how you prompt in with a chatbot is the ability to prompt with it means a lot in terms of what you get out of it. So we then take that to agents as well. So then we take that idea and we have to communicate with an agent that's going to do a full job. So that's another level of skill set that's going to be required. And then there are other AI tools as well. There are plenty of other AI tools apart from chatbots. So obviously there are tools that generate images and sounds. We're going to see a song later on. So AI is not just, or generative AI is not just ChatGPT. It's a range of tools that generate. That's the whole point of generative AI. And then I guess another key point is content. So AI systems that work well rely on good content. So we need an ability and skill sets in the organization for managing content well. So if we put good content in, we get good outcome, or good content out. If we put garbage in, we get garbage out. So content management is going to be another key need and skill within organizations.
So I think when we're looking at all of these advancements, there's also alongside that is a growing recognition that uniquely human skills are becoming even more critical. And I think one of the things about the human skills is the soft skills, which have been around for a really long time, and certainly soft skills being hard to train, not necessarily being highly valued, and certainly people not seeing the value in credentialing them. You don't see those badges terribly often on LinkedIn profiles. And I think surveys are confirming this trend and this identifying this need. There's a nice statistics there in terms of executives prioritizing human skill development over technical AI. And there's a number of reasons that could be attributed to just the sheer scale of investing in training and development in AI, training in something which 2 weeks later is changed and updated again, through to ethics and policy could be reasons why there. But essentially, I guess the critical importance of human skills is that the AI can do a lot of what the technical skills, particularly in the baseline areas, were doing, and increasingly so automating tasks, analysing data. But the human component to that is really around complex problem solving and relationship building. So organisations that are investing in developing the employees' human skills and individuals themselves will be better able to navigate change and remain innovative. And I think in terms of employee well-being, that emotional intelligence, empathy, and effective communication, not new soft skills, but of course creating that positive and engaged work environment, but also that self component there as well too. So understanding self, bringing your own employee well-being, understanding how to build these skills, and with AI really can actually set you up for not just surviving but actually thriving in your workplace. So I guess the key takeaway here being that investing in the human skills, particularly for managers, is more important than ever. And that's because your managers really, in terms of outsized impact and influence in their organisation and engagement with this type of development, is larger than the rest of the other tiers of the organisation. So just having a look at the future capabilities and the human skills or power skills or soft skills, I think when most people look at the slide, they go, well, there's nothing new here. We've known this and we've known this for years, that these skills are important. And maybe there's a bit of a shuffle, but probably one of the only new ones there is the AI and potentially. I think when we're looking at this, we've seen it across reports, slice and dice in different ways, as you will have as well. So I think that the important component here is we're really looking at those higher order cognitive skills in terms of critical thinking and problem solving. They're really important because obviously, we're having more and more complex problems which are going to require novel and innovative solutions. And we know that the AI can actually do quite a bit of, problem solving, suggesting solutions, and the more and more we prompt it. So this is us developing our human component of creativity and innovation to be able to actually leverage what the AI can actually start us off with. Self-efficacy, obviously, this is important in terms of becoming self-directed, adaptable, resilient, and that flexibility. So those words in terms of agility and adaptability, aren't going away there either. I think we were looking at the technology skills, and Andy's covered this really, really well. And I think, of course, this is transforming every single industry and at speed. So those that can understand it and keep at pace across it, they're going to be in high demand. So you're going to have an immediate individual competitive advantage if you actually can understand the technology and work with it, but combine it with those human skills as well. So again, I think it's in terms of change, in terms of demand and complexity, yes, that's there, but there's also exciting opportunities. So with the right skills and the right combination, it's really about thinking about, as an individual, or if you're a manager for your teams at an organizational level, how can we actually set up our workplace to actually combine this and thrive? Which I think leads to, since we're really not talking about new soft skills or human skills or power skills here that haven't really been in front of us before, we're actually looking at how we do this and how we train. So when we're looking at human skills and say adding in looking through creativity. And if you look at the left-hand slide of just the next one, Andy, if you don't mind, the critical thinking, problem solving, some of these that the AI can actually do already. So they're not actually discretely just human skills or power skills. We're just starting to see that blend and merge of those. So where we're saying that this is human skills, it's amazing, particularly when you speak with AI or communicate with how human those responses are, in particular if you've used AI as a coach, you know, and in terms of active learning as well, you can have a very, very human conversation, which can actually be quite surprising. So I think, again, it's thinking about what's the pieces which we can leverage, but it's more about the how. So we're thinking about that at skills in terms of our training. We can't actually separate out soft skills or human skills or power skills training just on its own. It really is an integrated approach. And how is it your human skills or power skills with AI? So so that becomes, you know, integrated, and it's also in terms of delivery methodology as well. So looking at really blended methodology. So it's not just one. And blended methodology, I know some of you will be rolling your eyes, has been around for a very, very long time as well too. But thinking about how we're adding an AI to that component as well too. So a real mixture here of, you know, whether it's e-learning, instructor-led coaching, but also backed up potentially with AI coaches, using simulators for a really nice, safe individual space to say, we've got interactive communication here, practice those critical conversations with an AI agent. So I think this is the piece that we're actually looking at. The soft skills, human skills, not new, but how we do this, how we train, that piece is looking far more integrated in the future.
Yeah, and talking about integration as well. So this term interactive communication is one we've sort of playing around with, because it's really, to us, it's the meta skill that bridges between the I guess the need for human interaction and machine interaction. So Google just recently brought out a guide to prompting. So they've got a product called Gemini that some of you may have used. It's actually pretty good. And they've come out with a how-to. It's the first time anyone's actually come out with any form of manual for AI. It's interesting, isn't it? It's like normally we have lots of manuals. This one, AI, there's nothing. I mean, really, it's just learn by doing. However, we have learned some principles that are actually relevant. And the good thing is that these principles apply equally between AI and people. So you can actually improve your people skills by improving your AI skills. And so that's why we talk about this meta concept of interactive communication as actually being more important than being a prompt engineer, because you are going to be in this world where you're going to have be prompting, well, I think communicating, let's use that term, with AI and AI agents and people. And so this meta skill of interactive communication is actually, in my view, going to be way more important. And these principles apply across machines or AI and people. And so this, you know, if we walk through the loop of being precise and concise. So what Google came out with is that the most effective prompt was around 21 words. So some people will say you need to have really long prompts to get anything effective. Well, that just showed you that clear, concise prompting had more of an impact. In the same way that clear and concise communication with people generally has more impact. So another meta principle. Understanding your audience, again, nothing new about that, but the same applies to AI as it does to people. And context is incredibly important with AI as it is with people. Feedback loops, again, you have a communication with AI, and it's best to think of that way as well, is that you put in some information, it gives you something out, and you have there's a feedback loop. You go through, and then eventually, hopefully, you get exactly what you want, and then you learn next time around how to communicate better. In the same way with people. And then empathy is, again, I guess, the emotional state that also applies to AI as well. So even though you can anthropomorphize and say that, you know, AI is not people, but it's designed to work it is a communication tool, and it was designed with words and language in mind. So good human emotional communication with AI is actually effective as well. So it's good practice for human communication. So anyway, this concept of interactive communication is going to become a power skill for whether we're communicating with people and machines as we go forward. And we see that in this concept of the future leader. So, this may look like far-fetched and far away, but I don't believe it is. So I think in the next few years, we are going to be in this world where if we're in a leadership role, and we're all leaders, that we're going to be working with probably an AI assistant, and that will be something personally that we work with. That could be built into a phone, in your iPhone, or it could be a specific AI device, but I think most likely it's going to be built into future generations of phone, and it will know all about who you are and manage your life, I guess, somewhat in a hopefully very helpful way. I mean, this is way more than what we talk about with something like Siri. It's a lot more capable and a lot more useful. But then we roll that out from a personal assistant out into a work context. And then I explained before about autonomous AI agents. So you'll most likely have a set of agents there to do work on your behalf. And there'll be entities that you'll need to work with. So you'll need to explain to them what you need them to do, and you need to give them feedback. And the clearer you are at doing that, the better outcome you'll get. So we're going to work in this very hybrid world of people and AI assistants and agents. And I think that's going to be sooner than we think. I think within the next couple of years, will be quite common for most of us to have this sort of this type of workplace. So now we just talk about putting this all into action. So.
And I think here, there's no one size fits all approach here as well. We've got organisations that are using really sophisticated technology, as mentioned. We've got people taking more of an organic approach. Some people are actually taking a more midline approach where they're not doing this complete decoupling from position descriptions, but they're building that skills hub and going through a process of actually recognising what skills they have and credentialing those skills. So they've got this sort of architecture which they can then actually work from that particular space. So there's certainly not one way. We've taken our own approach to this at Skills at the moment, and it's again, it's not a new approach, but there's some key pieces here which are really sort of important to us. So that the organisational capability or competency, again, not new, but aligning in with those strategic goals and identifying what these new benchmarks and metrics are for us as an organisation, and what are the capabilities we're wanting. And of course, once you've got those there, actually having an opportunity to be able to regularly review and refresh those in line with advancements is really important. This is where too, building up the Skills Academy, so a collection of learning experiences which are aligned to critical capabilities and the training and coaching that goes alongside those as well. So really curated, and that can be quite individual to individuals or to functional areas as well, which is certainly what we're looking at. So that's really mapping through to individuals training and professional development, and then credentialing is that we see that is really important. We're doing that through a mixture, but certainly digital credentials allow that kind of smaller bite-sized credentialing of being able to see these and recognise these skills, and for people to share those as well in digital formats. A key piece, and I'm incredibly excited and passionate about this is the diagnostics. Again, totally not new, has been around a really long time, but I think this is a component which is our piece in terms of predictability, and having an evidence base to actually what are the skills that you have, what are the strengths, what are the potential development areas, and that's not just across cognitive competencies and general intelligence and personality, but also that key values piece and those insights in terms of what motivates motivates, engages, and retains your employees. And we're seeing that as more important than ever, working across multi-generational environments, and also just that obviously the movement and churn that we've had in terms of talent. So really keeping your staff and providing that pathway. So just a tool of many, but we see this as also an opportunity to reduce bias, take some of the pressure off managers in terms of making some of those decisions, whether it's in recruitment or in terms of promotion, but also being able to pick a path across the organisation with skill sets. And of course, at individual level, that's really exciting, being able to actually have an external validation without bias of, look, here's strength areas, and you may like to actually go and work towards this project or that project or the rest to build up a bit more of a career portfolio approach. And again, wired back into professional development and planning, which wires back into your capability map and your strategy and business objectives. So training programs, again, not new, wiring these in. These can be more curated and customised and flexible, and of course using that blended methodology. And we've touched on the award and credentials. I think one of the things we're hearing across multiple organisations is better ways of measuring the impact of training and effectiveness, and what is the ROI and the investment in learning. So billions and billions being spent on leadership, training and development, but actually what is that return on investment? And there's some interesting thought leadership going on in that space at the moment, and it's certainly something that we're investigating more too. So a couple of examples, just to illustrate different approaches. IBM, so they've got a skills-based approach called Your Learning, and that allows employees to access personalised learning recommendations based on their current skills and their career aspirations. So they've actually got an AI-powered platform called Blue Matching, so that matches employees with internal job opportunities based on their skills and experience. Unilever, they've done a similar thing in terms of approach to talent management, and they've focused on identifying and developing what they see to be the critical skills for their future of work within their organisation. So they have a future skills framework, and that just outlines those key skills required in various roles. So they've still kept that role-based component and framework there, and then they provide their employees with targeted learning and development opportunities against those critical skills. So I won't touch on all of those, so I'm just aware of the time, but Andy's just going to touch on a path forward.
Okay, so how do you move forward? There's quite a lot of content we've covered, quite a lot of different ideas and approaches. So I guess there are multiple ways of approaching this as well. There's not one way that's going to work for all organizations and all of the time. This sort of reflects our approach as well, that it can be all encompassing, it can be bewildering to get to this point, and it can also feel like, well, by the time we get somewhere, it's all changed anyway. So is there any point? I think our view in our organization, there is a point, and hopefully we've through some of the other context we've provided today around the changing environment that we're in, and this, I think, AI world, AI robotic and AI agents and all these other things that are going to come at us, this ability to connect skills to work and meaning is going to become even more important. So where do you start? Again, there's lots of entry points. So if we think about our organization, so we're starting to do targeted skill gap assessment. So we're looking at different groups and teams and identifying what we're needing, what is going to be needed in the team and in individuals, and we're starting to share that with each other. So for example, my team Michelle is going to be facilitating a session with us in a few weeks. Everyone's excited about learning more about each other, but also it's going to provide us a very clear development path individually, as well as for the rest of the team. So at a team level, but then we're rolling that up to a higher level as well. So that's another area that we're looking at, more at the strategy level, which is my role in strategy. So how do we work out at skills? What are the skills that we're going to need across all of our businesses? And from a strategy level, how do we roll that down to the various parts of the organization? So that's some work in progress. Then we're also using AI to help develop competency maps as well. So how do we work out, within different parts of the organization, how do we help, people align to the work they're doing? Competency maps and things like that can be really helpful. So that's an area we're working on as well, to actually start developing consistent competency maps across the organization. And then rolling that through into the how we're recruiting people, what skills do we need, and how do we position that. So quite a lot of things going on in our organization in this journey. Some other things we talk about here is skills-based mentoring program. So that's another really powerful tool that some of you probably already done. I know I've been in organizations where we've had a mentor program, and I personally found that incredibly valuable, both being a mentor and a mentee. It's actually a rewarding experience for both. And that really comes and really is made easier when you start to figure out what skills you need and what skills people skills people want to gain as well, and what's important in the organization. So that those programs gain a lot more value when you've got that clarity on what skills you have and what skills you need. And then I guess also making skill acquisition a rewarded thing as well. So if we value it, then we should reward it and encourage it. So in our organization, we actually give people specific time. It's called Love Your Skills. So it's time where people actually get allocated to, it's set aside from all your other work for development. And that's a massive cost to our organization. But to me, it's a big investment in our people. So, if we start valuing people and the skills, then we need to provide them the tools and the time to do that and encourage that. So again, that can also come through performance-based pay as well. So some organizations actually put incentives around development. In other words, if you need to show development to actually gain or it's part of your potential performance or development. So you actually get paid more if you can show what development you've made. So again, putting some tangible things behind valuing skill acquisition. So there's a lot of things organizations can do to encourage it, but certainly providing time, providing the tools, key steps towards that. So now we get to questions. I don't see any questions. Let me just check. If anyone, please put any questions on if you've got anything you would like to ask us. So we do have an article. So this will, at the end of this seminar, we'll also send out a link to this article, which covers some of the concepts and what we've talked about here, building a future fit organization. And we have a new paper on interactive communication coming up. And then, of course, Michelle and her wonderful team in Skills DX would be delighted to hear from anyone about anything we've covered from a skills perspective during this session. Michelle, did you want to add anything to that?
Oh, I think the only thing which just to wrap it all up, I think, is that there really isn't a one size fits all approach, and that certainly is the consulting aspect of that as well, and having initial discussions. I think looking at a much more holistic, integrated future of work going forward. So it's much less a case of it's this type of training, it's that type of training, it's this and that, and. Andy. So I think that's probably one of my pieces at looking at all this. You know, we're not talking about new concepts in the world of education here, but it's the how we do and the integrated approach, and the speed and the importance of which is probably the key takeaways from my perspective. So yeah, keen to chat if anyone wants to.
Cool. Great. So thanks, Michelle. And we'll finish off with what we promised / threatened, which was a sea shanty celebrating the two pirates, the Andy AI and the Michelle Rob Baron. So we'll listen to an AI generated sea shanty. So for those of you who haven't tried it before, Suno AI is a product. It's actually really quite fun, quite cool to generate AI music. So we'll listen to that.
Sailing on the open sea, AI Andy and Michelle Robber Baron, tales of pirates they long to be, chasing treasure from dusk till dawn. With a click and a clack, they finish their webinar, transforming organizations. They brought a new era. Hoist the sail, chart the course to a skills-based destination, navigating through the workforce, embracing transformation. AI and an expert in coding algorithms. Michelle Robert Baron, a people skills enigma. Yo, and the bottle of change. We're setting sail, not staying in range. Driven by passion, we'll seize the day. Together we'll sail. On this skills-based voyage we'll play. On the skills-based voyage we'll play.
Whoops. Okay, so thank you everybody for joining us on this webinar. We've enjoyed putting this together and look forward to connecting with you in the future and hopefully share more insights on what I think is going to be an exciting time in the future of work. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you everyone for joining.